Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. I am doing another book video today, my second book video. I am so excited to be doing another book video. I am on my reading book era grind vibe. I'm just loving reading at the moment. So today I'm going to be sharing my October reading wrap-up, so all the books that I read in October, and I'm going to tell you how I feel about them. And then I'm also going to be sharing my ambitious November TBR, so these are books that are on my TBR pile and ones that I want to read for this month in November. So I'm just going to go ahead and get right into it. I will say that some of these videos that I watch, like my reading wrap-up or monthly reading wrap-up, people read like 15-20 books a month. I don't have time for that. I think if I could just sit and read all day, I could potentially do that, but I have a full-time job, so I pretty much read just at night before bed, some on the weekends I guess when I have time as well, and sometimes throughout the day if I can find little pockets to do that. I try. I've been trying to swap out phone time for reading, and that really helps me be able to read more. So I will just say there's not as many books as some of these videos that I see. That's why I'm including my reading wrap-up for October and also my November TBR, because there wouldn't be that many books to share. So I read 4 books in the month of October, so pretty much a book a week, which I feel like was pretty good. We also had some travels, as you guys saw if you watched our New York vlog, which was hilarious. We did some traveling, so I feel like maybe if we didn't do that I would have been able to read a little bit more, but I got to 4 books, so that's pretty good. And it was a very good reading month. I liked every single book. Actually, there was 4 and 5 stars for this October month, so that was very good. So the first book that I read in the month of October is Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney, and I had talked about this book in my first book video where I was just sharing my TBR for fall and books that I recommend and want to read for fall, and this was on one of them. I think I had said I was like starting to read this. I just started it. This book is amazing. This is a thriller book, and let me tell you, I had heard that there was going to be a big twist in this, and there was. I don't know why I wasn't super shocked. I could like see it coming right when it was about to come, but I've heard people say like they had no idea. It was still very like a big twist, and I had to really think about it to like understand the book from there on out. So I really liked that because it's kind of a psychological thriller, which I really like those. But basically this is about a married couple, Mr. and Mrs. Wright, and on their anniversary, the wife, she writes like letters to her husband for that year, but she doesn't let him read them, so you kind of get like an insight from jumping from her letters and things, which I really like that too, when the point of views change and also different times and different reasons. So I liked like reading her letters and stuff like that, and some of them start to get a little like, you know, something's going on or something's wrong with her, or they're having marital problems, and you never know like who the bad guy is, I guess. But basically they went a weekend away to Scotland in like this beautiful snowy area, and there's just some weird things that start to go on with like the little house that they're renting or staying in, and so it's just a really good read and really fun. It is a little bit dark and kind of scary. Some points I literally was like scared, and every chapter though is short and leaves on like a huge cliffhanger. So if you like thrillers, I really suggest this. It wasn't horror, okay, it's not that scary, but like at night when I was reading it I was kind of spooked out, but really good. I think I rated this 5 stars. I really liked this book. The next book that I read for the month of October was The Dead Romantics, which this was on my fall TBR, so I'm excited that I got to it, and I rated this a 4 stars. I loved this book. It was very, very different. There's a supernatural element, so if you don't care to read that, maybe don't read this, but I would say I don't care for the supernatural element, but I really enjoyed this, and I also really enjoyed Layla by Colleen Hoover, so maybe I do, I don't know. But I really enjoyed this book. This is about Florence Day, and she is basically a ghostwriter for like a really famous author, so like she writes as if she's that famous author, but no one knows it's really her, so she does that for some of this author's books, and you don't really know why, and so you kind of find that out, and then she meets this guy, but it really is her boss, and they kind of hit it off, but then she finds out it's her boss, and then something happens to him, and then she ends up feeling him like her. I don't want to give too much away, but it was a really fun, good read. I would say this is definitely romance, but it also has that supernatural element, so there's a little bit of like mystery. I just thought it was really fun and playful and a really good, like, I don't know, I really enjoyed the writing, and also the plot. That's I guess what I'm trying to say is very different, because the main girl, Florence Day, her parents like own a funeral home, and so you kind of get like the insight of being a kid of parents who own a funeral home and like having that be your life. And I've never heard of that, and will probably never be around that, so I just thought that was really cool to read about that too. Also, I love the family aspect of it, so this was a really good read, kind of a funky, quirky read, but it was really fun. So I suggest this if that's what you're kind of looking for to read. The next book that I read in October is The Lies That Bind by Emily Giffin, and I gave this 4 stars. This book was really good. I hadn't heard, I think, anyone talk about this book, at least not that I've like seen online, but my mom read this book and she really liked it, and so I went ahead and bought it. And I bought it while I was in New York, and it has the New York skyline here, New York City skyline here, and it is partially takes place on 9/11. And if you know, Michael and I went to go visit the monument and museum for the 9/11, and we just love like learning about that kind of stuff. It's very interesting and very sad and tragic, but also just really interesting to learn about that kind of stuff. And so we actually got to go there and go to some of these places that she was mentioning in this book. So the main reason why I picked this up was because we were in New York when I saw it, and I was like, oh my gosh, my mom read that. It's about New York. We're in New York. I have to get this book. But I ended up enjoying it way more than I thought I would. Like I said, but I gave this 4 stars. I looked it up on Goodreads after, and I was kind of shocked by the reviews. So I suggest not reading the reviews from Goodreads because they were very mixed, and it was actually kind of controversial because, like I said, part of this takes place on 9/11, and so some people were upset that 9/11 was being used like in not such a respectful way, which I never felt that way while I was reading this book. But I guess if you had seen someone like comment that, you can maybe start to think that, you know how our minds just get swayed by people we don't even know. So I suggest not reading comments about it and just reading it and see how you feel about it. You know, if it doesn't sit right with you, don't read it. But I never once felt like that, and I feel like I'm kind of sensitive to that kind of stuff. But this book is definitely like romance, I would say mystery kind of, because you're trying to figure out what is going on with the main guy. But I guess I'll tell you guys a little bit about it. So I don't want to give away too much, but I'll just give like a little quick synopsis. But there's this girl named Cecily, and she is out at a bar one night. She's kind of groveling because her and her boyfriend recently broke up, and she is drinking, and then she's about to text him or call him, and there's this guy next to her that sees kind of what she's about to do, and he's just like, don't do it. Don't call him, don't text him. And so she's like, what? And then they kind of spark up a conversation, and she kind of falls for him kind of immediately, and then they kind of start talking, and then 9/11 happens and she doesn't hear from him. And then so she's trying to figure out, was he in the building? And he does happen to work in the building, but she doesn't know if he was there, and all this kind of stuff. There's a lot more, and I don't want to give too much away because I think you should really read this book if that sounds interesting to you. Like, that plot is just so interesting to me. There's twists. The reason why I gave this 4 stars is because the end. I'm not sure if I liked the end. I don't hate it because it closed well. Like, I feel like the author closed it well, but I just don't know like how I feel, like if I agree about it and everything. There's huge twists in here. There's multiple, so I definitely suggest if you're a girl who loves, or guy I guess, who loves like twists in a book, I definitely suggest this one. And it does have a little bit of historical fiction with 9/11, which I really appreciated. And usually I don't really care for historical fiction, but this one was really fun to read. Lots of twists and very interesting. When I got to read like about the certain spots of New York, I was like, oh my gosh, I was just there. So that was fun. So the last book that I kind of just finished reading probably about a week ago is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. So this is the first book in this trilogy. I'm actually reading book 2 right now. I'm like in the middle of it. I gave this 5 stars. I couldn't really find anything wrong with it. I loved the writing style. I hadn't read anything by her. This is by Holly Jackson, and I really liked her writing style. This was a very quick read. I feel like there's a lot more to it than just like, okay, words on a page. If you read this, you know what I mean. There's like evidence they show you, there's pictures sometimes, so it was just a very fun read, and I love a good murder mystery, so this one was definitely fun. I've heard about this series for a long time, and I'm really glad. It definitely lives up to the hype to me. I really enjoyed this. This is a YA book, so I feel like any age range can read this. There was some cuss words, but never anything too bad. There was no spicy scenes, which was actually really nice to read a book where I didn't have to like read that kind of stuff. So I very much enjoyed this I gave this 5 stars. Just a good old murder mystery, but basically this is about a girl in high school. Her name is Pippa, which I just think that that's a cute name. And she is at school and she gets this project that she has to do kind of throughout the whole year. It's kind of like a big project and you can pick what it's about. And she picks the topic of this murder that had happened to this girl named Andy 5 years previously at this high school. Well, the murder didn't happen at the high school, but she went to that high school. So it's about a 5 year later trying to figure out. The case is closed, but Pip doesn't believe so. So she's trying to figure out who is the real murderer here. And so it kind of goes through that aspect of it. She finds clues, you kind of follow along, you get to make your guesses, there's a suspect list. So it was just a really fun murder mystery read. Never too scary, never too dark. I mean, I guess it can get a little scary because you're reading about like people murdering people, but it was never like gruesome or anything. Like I said, it's YA. So this was another really fun read and a good way to, you know, kind of add in the little murder aspect into October. So those are the books that I read in October, and so now I'm going to get into the books that I want to read for November. And I actually picked 5 books this time, so I'm being a little bit ambitious. Hopefully I can read a little bit more than 1 book a week. I think that that would be really cool to do. We will see. Okay, I just forgot that I was literally in the middle of reading a book, so really this is like 6 books in the month of November, so I don't know if I'll get to all of them, but I'm like halfway done with this one, which this is the 2nd book in A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, and this is Good Girl Bad Blood, and I'm really enjoying this one too. I kind of was hesitant to read this because I was like, it can't be as good as the first one, and is there gonna be another murder, and like, you know, just kind of be way out there and like not very realistic. But I'm very into this. It is very good. I think I'm a little over halfway through. I'm on like page 230 of like 400. Yeah, so I'm planning to finish this in the next like day or two so that I can hurry up and get all my other ones. But I'm really enjoying this. And then so that leads me to my next book that I want to read for November, which is As Good as Dead, which is the 3rd and final book in this Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. And yeah, I don't really know what this is about, and I kind of don't even want to read the back. I kind of just want to go into it. I think it has to do something about with the main character Pip and like now her getting like threats and something happening with her, which I've heard some people say that this is their favorite in the series, and then some people say this is their least favorite. So we will see. I'm definitely going to finish out the series because why not? I'm already invested. The next book that I want to get to this month, I kind of want to get to it, but I don't know. I'm like not really looking forward to it, but I know I need to, is It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover. This just came out in end of October, I think. And so this is her newest book. It is a sequel to It Ends With Us, which I really enjoyed. It Ends With Us, but I read it quite a while ago, so I think that's why I'm kind of like not looking forward to this. But I think what I'll do, because I don't want to reread it, but I think I'm just going to watch like a YouTube synopsis of It Ends With Us again so I can kind of be refreshed or something like that, and then I think I will read this. I've heard mixed reviews. I've heard people say they really love this, and then some people say it's unnecessary. I have a feeling it's unnecessary because I think originally there was not going to be any sequel, but people loved It Ends With Us, so she decided to write a sequel. So I just feel like I'm going to enjoy like reading it because she's a great author and the plots are always really fun. But I just think I'm not going to get as much out of it as I did with It Ends With Us, because It Ends With Us just gave me like a new hindsight to some things. If you read it, you know what I mean. But I really enjoyed It Ends With Us. November 9 is still my favorite by her. Some people say it's her least favorite, and I just, who are you? And I don't understand why. Next book that I want to read in the month of November is Sometimes I Lie by Alice Feeney. So this is the same author who wrote Rock, Paper, Scissors, this first one that I was talking about. And this will be my second book by her. Rock, Paper, Scissors was my first by her. And this one YouTuber that I watched, she like loves her. So I'm very excited to read a second one because I really did enjoy the first one. But this one is about a woman, and she wakes up in the hospital after a tragic accident, and she can't speak, she can't move. So she's basically in a coma, but she can hear like what's going on around her, and she knows that like something bad happened about why she's in the hospital and why she's in this state, but she can't figure out what. And she knows some of her family members are involved, and like there's this person that keeps coming to visit her and she doesn't know who it is. So I just thought that that was very interesting, and knowing her, it's going to be a quick fun read. There's going to be twists. It's just going to be a good read, so I'm excited to get to this hopefully this month. Next book that I want to read in November is The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. I've tried to say this before. You guys know I don't know how to say his name. But this is the author who wrote The Silent Patient, which I read a long time ago, but I really enjoyed it. I think I may want to reread that kind of soon because I remember like the big things, like I remember the big twists, but I would just love to read it again because I remember I really enjoyed his writing. So I am excited to get to this. My mom read this one too and said she liked it, but The Silent Patient was better. But this one sounds interesting too. So I had to just read the back again to kind of figure out what this is about because I don't even think I know anything about what this is about, and it sounds a little bit of like dark academia, which I haven't really read any books that are involved like that, but it's always sounded so interesting to me. So I can't explain this well because I'm just read it real quick, but basically there is a murder that happens, and this therapist, I think she is very interested to find out who she thinks it is. She thinks she knows who it is, and then there's kind of this secret society within this university, I think. I may be like completely botching this, but I just literally read a few words at the back so I could try to explain this. But read The Silent Patient if you haven't, and you will want to read this no matter if you even know what this is about, because that was an amazing, twisted, awesome murder mystery thriller book. So the last and final book that I want to get to in the month of November, if I can, is a series. That's why I want to potentially read it last. But it is the Inheritance Game series, and I talked about this on my fall TBR, so I'm trying to include that TBR as well. But this is a trilogy, and this is the first book in the trilogy, and I'm very excited to read this. It's just, to get myself to read a whole series, I really have to like muster up the drive to do that, because once you read the first book, I feel like I have to read all of them. But then if I read all of them in 1 month, that takes up a lot of my reading for that month, and I want to read a bunch of different books. Like, does that make sense? I don't know. I feel like with series, I really have to like force myself to start them. So if I start this at the end of this month, maybe that will be good. I've kind of already described what this is about in my other video, but basically it is about this girl, and she ends up getting this huge inheritance from this billionaire man that she doesn't really know, and she doesn't know why she's getting this inheritance now that he's passed. But now this man's family wants to know why this random girl is getting it, but part of the thing of how she gets the money is that she has to go move into this big house that they all live in, and so it's kind of like this forced proximity with this family. And then I think there's like some things that go on. It's called the Inheritance Game, so I know there's some kind of games and riddles and puzzles that go on, which I love, like riddles and stuff. So I am excited to get to this. I don't know if I'll be able to get to it in November. I am being ambitious, but this is the last book that hopefully I can read in November. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope that you got some new book ideas. If there's any books that you need me to read, you're like, you need to read this book, especially this time of year, please leave it down below. I would love to know. If you've also read any of these books, let me know how you rated them. You can follow me on Instagram. I do have a little highlight of where I rate books. I don't rate every single book that I read, just because I also like to talk about it on here, but that has a little more book information if you want to go look at that. But yeah, thanks for stopping by my channel, and I hope to see you guys soon. Bye.